Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, where I get a chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas. This broadcast is sponsored by Reveal-Brainspace, the industry's leading AI eDiscovery platform. Don't forget to subscribe to watch me, George Socha, weekly with leaders in eDiscovery. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. I am George Socha, Senior Vice President of Brand Awareness at Reveal. Each Friday morning, not each morning, that would be way too much, but each Friday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, I host an episode of eDiscovery Leaders Live where I get the chance to chat with luminaries in eDiscovery and related areas. Past episodes are available on the Reveal website. Go to revealdata.com, select resources, then select eDiscovery Leaders Live. My guest this week is Helen Geib. Helen is of Counsel with Hoover, Hull, and Turner in Indianapolis. She is a business litigator providing practical solutions for eDiscovery in a wide range of state and federal courts. She brings to the table as well experience working with service providers and in corporate counsel roles. She was corporate counsel at Exact Data, general counsel and practice support consultant both at QDiscovery, worked as well as Preferred Imaging, and before that was an attorney at Barnes and Thornburg. Helen has a JD from the University of Illinois, Chicago School of Law, and a BA in physics, mind you, from Drew University. Helen, welcome.
Thank you. It's very exciting to be here.
Glad to have you join us. Before we get into our substantive topics of the day, I'd like you to do, as I sometimes ask folks, to tell us a little bit about what you do today and how it is you got to that position.
Sure. So for a lawyer, I have an unusual resume, but I think in the eDiscovery world, it's more typical that we have these kind of crazy patchwork resumes where we've moved around a lot and done a lot of different kinds of things. So I started in big law at Barnes and Thornburg here in Indianapolis, which was a great start to my career, and I really learned a lot there, but decided pretty early on that what I really was interested in was discovery, and that was dating myself, kind of the early days of eDiscovery. We were using summation back then, and I was kind of growing up, as a lawyer along with the eDiscovery field. And then I moved to the service provider side, and it was sort of like I feel like I only had one job, but I had three employers because of acquisitions. So I moved along to several different companies, although it seemed like I was always working in the same place. And did a lot of different things there. I learned a lot about forensics as well as continuing to learn about eDiscovery and doing in-house counsel work as well. And then right before the current times, about 2 years ago, I moved back to private practice. So now I'm with a small law firm here in Indianapolis, Hoover, Hull, Turner. We do business litigation, business counseling, and I'm basically, I am the eDiscovery practice group at my firm. We're a small enough shop that we kind of have our own areas like that. And so one thing I really like is I get to work on all different kinds of cases. So our clients are in all sorts of different businesses, and even though I'm doing eDiscovery, I'm learning about all these different business issues and legal issues at the same time. We also do a lot of trial work, and that's kind of the other part of my role is I do trial consulting, and trial is so exciting. I know the litigators out there can relate to me. There's nothing like actually being in the courtroom. So I feel like my current job is like the best of all my prior jobs, come together, drawing on all those skills, getting to do all the things that I enjoy.
Right, being in the courtroom 10 a.m. Monday morning, being in the war room 4 a.m.
That's true. That's true. There's a little bit of endurance test. It's good for the character.
It sounds as if when in your current role, you are assisting clients and your colleagues not only on litigation matters and e-discovery issues with respect to that, but business matters as well and e-discovery issues that are related to those. Is that correct?
I think it is. So, and being in-house counsel to service provider helped me with this. So it combined those skills of having to learn how to speak business, to talk to people, business people, about how we could craft practical solutions. And so I'm able to bring that perspective to, even though I'm counseling them now specifically about the demands of the litigation and the discovery, I can talk to them. I understand what their concerns are with, budgeting and the taking people away from their regular day jobs to work on, on the litigation. And so that having that in-house counsel background really has, it just continues to be an advantage to me in being able to counsel my clients more effectively and to help my colleagues, who are on the front line of the client relationship to help them as well.
Well, we've brought you here today to talk about a couple of things. First of which is professional development. And before we go into the details of professional development, we probably all have in our heads an idea of what we mean by that phrase, but how are you using that phrase?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'll try and be succinct because it's hard to sum it up as just one thing. So primarily it is about becoming better at what we do. So for me, it's becoming a better lawyer, whatever your role is, whatever your career path is. It's about moving forward on that path and improving our skills and providing better client service every day. But I also think it's really important to be part of the professional community. I've gotten so much from being part of the Bar Association here and from being part of professional groups, very active in women e-discovery, and have good relationships with ACEDS and other groups. And so having that building the community, not just for myself, but for the good of the profession. And kind of selfishly, when other people do e-discovery better, I think it is better for all of us, to bring up the level of the profession. So it kind of, redounds to my benefit, but in a kind of a remote way, but more directly just building that collegiality and camaraderie within the profession. It's just something that I value.
I know for me as a young lawyer right out of law school, the idea of becoming actively involved, not just a member of, but actively involved in the American Bar Association, or for me, the Minnesota State Bar Association, or the Hennepin County Bar Association, those were very imposing concepts. My reaction was, yeah, that's for people more senior than me. But that's not really the case, is it?
It's really not, and I used to feel like that when I was a young lawyer at Barnes and Thornburg. I wasn't involved in the Bar Association back then, and I regret it now. I wish that I had been, and I always try. Of course, one of the advantages of being more senior is you can give advice to people who are coming up in the field. Sometimes I hope that they appreciate it. But yeah, I always encourage people to get involved in these groups and say how much I wish I had done that sooner, because relationship building isn't something that happens overnight, and developing your skills obviously doesn't happen overnight. And so making these small investments of time and, coming out of the comfort zone, I'm actually quite introverted. I think it's funny with the lockdowns, I've heard this from other people too, is that I realized how much I liked being around people for the first time when I couldn't do it. When I had to do it, it was like, oh, it was so frightening. But now I long to get out there and be with people again. So even if you're an introvert like me, we're very welcoming at these groups. We love to have new people join us. And even if you're just there to listen, you're still contributing just by being there with your presence. So, come on in, the water's warm.
So what are some practical pointers for how people actually can go on in to the warm water? What do you do?
So let me put in a plug for LinkedIn. I really like LinkedIn. So even if you are not in a maybe you don't live somewhere that has a bar association or doesn't have a local chapter of ACEDS or one of these other groups, you can still become involved by online. It's one of the positive things about social networking is the chance to meet like-minded professionals and learn from each other and just have those those friendly relationships online. So I would love for anyone who's listening to connect with me if we're not already connected. I love talking to people about e-discovery online and sharing insights and practice tips and getting to know people that I can ask questions of later. And then when I do go to the big conferences or the local conferences, that then I know people because I've met them, nurtured those friendships and professional connections online. So that's one that everyone can do. And there's it's the easiest one because you can just go on and lurk. Now I'm going to borrow something that I heard from Kaylee Walsted. She said, be a liker, not a lurker. And I do like that. I think, it's better to get in there, comment, join the conversation. But even if you are just reading and not putting yourself out there at first, it's still a great way to get to know people and learn more about these groups that then maybe you think, oh, all these people that I follow, they're all a member of this group. Maybe I'll join that one too. So it's good research. Mm-hmm.
If you find an organization, whether it's ACEDS or Women in E-Discovery, and we'll come back to all of this later, but if you find an organization you want to join, how do you go about doing that? What are some of the pitfalls and what are some of the paths to success?
Mm-hmm. So the mechanics of it, unfortunately, they make it very easy. Just go online and join. I think the main pitfall is trying to do too much all at once. Is getting carried away by the enthusiasm. I'm going to join 5 groups and I'm going to go to everything and I'm going to listen to all the webinars. And you can get burned out that way. We do have obviously a lot of regular work, and it can become overwhelming deciding what is it that I want to focus on, which of these events do I want to attend, and so that there's some risk there. But I think as long as you're kind of disciplined in your approach, there's not really a lot of risk to it. And then the benefits, are so great of obviously, just the education, and then the networking as well. So I would just encourage you, maybe find a friend, if you're nervous about going to an in-person event where you don't know anyone. Do you already know someone in that organization? Call them up. Would you like to go together? Or someone who's also interested in discovery? Well, let's try this out together. Let's go together. So that's kind of my introvert tip is to find a friend to go with and someone who can make introductions for you or hang out with you if you're nervous about it. But really, we love to have new people. I'm chair of the e-discovery committee on for the Indianapolis Bar Association this year. Let me tell you, in an official capacity, there is nothing we like more than for new people to join us. So come right on in.
I take it you don't want them to just join and be lurkers. You want them to be the organizational equivalent of a liker. How do they go about doing that?
Mm-hmm. The main thing is sort of, I don't remember who said this, that showing up is 90%. There's variations of that float around, but yeah, there's actually a lot to just being present, just showing by your presence that you're interested. Now, there's always volunteer opportunities. There's we have a blog, we welcome submissions, and I know many groups are the same way. They have opportunities. They're always looking for people to do speaking and writing. And so there certainly are many opportunities to get more involved, but I don't want to underestimate or undervalue just how valuable it is to be there, to just be together. There's nothing more discouraging for a presenter or an organizer or an author to think that nobody cares, and it's so just having that feedback of yes, people are interested, it helps keep these groups alive and vibrant. And so it just being a member, you're contributing.
It's really discouraging to be a panel of 4 with an audience of 2.
Yes. Yes. Yes, it is. I once gave a presentation. I drove all the way to St. Louis and gave a presentation to 3 people. And that was a little bit crushing to my soul.
But you've managed to move on.
I did.
So why don't you touch just briefly on some of the organizations specific to e-discovery that either you've been active in, or even if you haven't, that you think other people should take a look at?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I do really like local bar associations, because you can make so many connections that are valuable, and many are like the Indianapolis Bar Association is also open to paralegals, so it's generally lawyers and paralegals in these organizations. So it's a pretty broad, big, mixing my metaphors, big tent. And then, so there's the value to your professional community at the same time. But there are a number of e-discovery specific organizations that have local chapters. As I mentioned, I started the Indianapolis chapter of Women in E-Discovery. I like that organization. The number one reason, because it's any job in e-discovery. So, I do like going to the Bar Association, hanging out with other lawyers, and I like going to the WE meetings and hanging out with people who do all sorts of jobs in e-discovery. And because we can learn so much from each other, and by sharing how we, it's like, how do we collaborate better? Every meeting, helps us to do that. ACEDS does have a lot of good local chapters. They don't have an Indianapolis chapter. If someone starts one, they call me up. I'd be interested in coming. But if you do have a local ACEDS chapter, I think it's a great organization. I read their blog.
I think I just heard you volunteer to start the Indianapolis chapter.
I may be hearing from someone about that.
You might, given who's broadcasting this.
Yeah. I know, and there are others, so like ILTA has local chapters, and I was, any of these e-discovery groups that has a local chapter, I'm going to advocate join it, because then you can actually meet people, you can go to coffee, you can hang out, and although I love LinkedIn, I love the virtual interaction, it's not the same, and it's good to have both.
The other topic I'd like to cover today is discovery education, in particular, self-directed education. First of all, explain what that is.
So this is the Helen definition. It's keeping up with new developments. And, so say you're new to e-discovery, there's a lot you have to learn. Obviously, maybe you've taken some formal coursework, maybe, informal online study, maybe just going to a lot of webinars, doing a lot of reading. That's really important. But even if you're really experienced, you've been in the field a long time, what's one of the distinguishing characteristics of e-discovery? New technology. So every time the technology changes, we have to learn about it. So even no matter how long you've been in the field, there's always something new to learn. There's new data sources, there's new e-discovery technology. So this is just an imperative for everyone in our field. We're not doing admiralty law here, It's not, it's changing every day. And then, but it's also great because this is a legal area where there's just so many resources. There's so many people who are writing good articles, giving webinars. They're sponsored by service providers, they're sponsored by nonprofits, they're sponsored by bar associations. I mean, there's just so many organizations that have an investment in education and providing educational opportunities. And so I think although there's a lot of demands on us to seek out education, we're fortunate that there's a lot there to be found.
As you look at this, are you thinking about both structured education, certification programs such as Reveal and others offer, as well as sort of build your own adventure education where I know what I do is get onto Google and start digging. You mean both those?
Yeah, I think it is. It's really up to the individual. And I do encourage, this is a good area to seek out a mentor. So that, especially if you're newer in your career, or maybe you're contemplating a change in direction, that having someone to talk through these options with, and where's the industry heading? What am I interested in? Would a certification be valuable to me? Or is it something that the sort of my dream job, is that something the employer isn't interested in? So there's definitely not a one size fits all. And while there's a lot, I think there's a lot you can work through on your own. This is an area where it's very helpful to have a trusted advisor. And maybe that's someone, at your current firm or company, or maybe someone online that you respect, who has the type of job that you're interested in having. It's like, well, how did you, and again, of course, I know I can't speak for everyone, but everyone that I've ever met who I've talked to about this says, oh, I love it when people ask me questions. I'm so happy to talk about all the different good career options. And yes, I would love it if people would drop me a line and say, I'm interested in this path that you took. How did you get there? Was a certification valuable? Did you take, maybe you took a night class at the local law school? There's just so many great options there. And people in the industry are obviously the best resources for what worked and didn't work for them.
Look, okay. Part of what happens with getting looking for and finding a mentor, and approaching certification like that, is that you're also building your own network of contacts, right? And your own shaping of a community. How does pursuing education, even self-directed education, tie into what you were talking about earlier with community, networking, mentoring, and the like?
Yeah, so something that I picked up when I was on the business side of things, and kind of a broken record on this now, is return on investment. So everything in business has to have good return on investment. They're always asking, what's the ROI? What's the ROI? And I think this is a really useful concept to bring into your own professional development too. If I'm going to do this, how can I maximize my return on investment? There's my time, my effort, the opportunity cost of the things that I'm not doing. And so say I like to write. I like to write articles as just something that I enjoy. And that has great ROI. So the best way to learn is to teach. I totally believe that truism. Every time I research a topic and think about it so that I can write about it, I'm learning it more deeply. So it's a great personal ROI for my own professional development, but also it's good for my firm because it's good business development for my law firm to get our name out there, and it's good for me personally that, I get feedback from people and I'm making new connections all the time. People who have read my work and like it or have questions. And it's just wonderful to make those connections. So that's something where, I'm getting such a great ROI from it. It seems like, well, I'm just, I'm spending a few hours writing an article, but I'm getting so much for it. And everyone needs, should think about, what do you enjoy? What are the opportunities that you have? And then how can you make the most of them? So if someone would say, my top piece of advice, something that really made a huge difference for me, be willing to go outside your comfort zone. I started writing because my boss at 3 companies ago came to me and said, we've decided that we need a blog and we all agree you're the best writer at the company and you're going to write it.
That's what the law degree does.
At the time, I was like,
that's what your law degree gets you, right?
Exactly.
Writing opportunities.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for that great compliment and vote of confidence. I didn't know what to write about. I'd never done this before. And it was really hard at first. And I'm glad that company was acquired and that blog doesn't exist anymore. So no one can trace it back to me. But it was so good for me it pushed me out of my comfort zone. And so if you have that opportunity, someone asks you to present with them or to write something or to go to a meeting with them, say yes. Take that plunge, because there's just so much that you can get from it. It's worth that momentary anxiety to put yourself out there.
As you are writing, so we're going to go a little off topic here, but I just noticed one of the comments. As you are writing content, how much are you at liberty when you're writing to cover what you want to cover? How much of it do you need to run past the law firm, especially if there's going to be something that might be controversial?
So I'm very fortunate that what I'm interested in is not controversial. So like I'm interested in things like self-directed learning. This is not controversial. Now, when I was on the service provider side, and I was writing for our official company blog, and I did coordinate that with our marketing department. And I thought, well, you're always interested in more things than you have time to pursue. So which of these that I'm interested in aligns with the business development goals of my organization? And that's what I'm going to pursue. And if there is something that you're really passionate about, that you want to write about, that's, reflects your own views and not my organization's sort of disclaimer, then there are ways to do that, to go outside the normal channel and to put that disclaimer on. And so I do think that obviously, I respect my employer and what they need, and I try and pick what I'm interested in that aligns with our overall goals as a firm, to show our what we can do for our clients, and then that's valuable to me as well. But if there is something else that I want to do, I know that there are ways that I can do that as long as I'm respectful and pursuing it in a way that respects myself and my employer and my audience. And so I guess prudential judgment comes down to.
You talked about some of the ways that pursuing self-directed education can help you as the person pursuing it. How does it help others?
So the direct way is if you take what you have learned and you put it back out there. Say you're studying something, start posting about it on LinkedIn. Share that with others, or write an article, give a presentation. So that's an obvious direct way where you can take what you're learning for maybe a particular case you're working on or a new technology that you're learning, and you can then become the educator. The other way, again, just to go back to, being there, being part of the group, that really has value just in itself. So just being there, asking a few questions, getting to know people, it's that cannot overstate, how encouraging that is for the presenter, the writer, to get that feedback, to know that yes, people are interested in. And so it's this great feedback loop of, by going out there, and yes, you're being a passive consumer, but if you take that one extra step of the thank you note or the comment and saying, I got a lot out of this, you just guaranteed that there's going to be another article.
Do you have any final closing thoughts to share here?
No.
Last minute and a half, or whatever we have remaining.
Yes, I feel like you should have prepared me that you were going to ask me that.
Got to catch you out somewhere.
Well, I wish that I had great words of wisdom for the ages, but I think I will just, again, encourage everyone to leave your comfort zone and put yourself out there, and even if and just make that connection, initiate that connection, because it's good for you and it's for the whole e-discovery profession. The more of us who are out there connecting with each other, learning from each other, it can only have good effects. So, I guess that's really what it comes down to for me, is just I like e-discovery because it does feel like a community to me. And the more people who are part of it, the more vibrant and healthy it will be.
Well, thank you, Helen. Helen is of Counsel at the Indianapolis firm of Hoover, Hull, and Turner. I am George Socha. This has been eDiscovery Leaders Live, hosted by ACEDS and sponsored by Reveal. Next week, of course, is Legal Week, delayed a month from last year. We will be broadcasting at various times live from the conference. So check out the times. Join us then next week. Helen, thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.